Right. So I'll pass the time to Dr. Kong.
Okay. Thank you, Wei Xiang. First of all, just make sure you can hear me and also see my slides at the moment. Wei Xiang, are you able to see?
Yes.
Okay.
Can
All right.
see and hear.
All right. Thank you very much. Okay. So thank you, everybody. This is a topic that I am very passionate about. And so I'm glad to have this opportunity to put things together. A lot of things have been on my mind for many years about doing something like this. It's not until recently, I retired last year, that I had the time to sit down and gather my thoughts and put things down. And actually, this is the first time I'm sharing it in a public forum like this. Okay. Wei Xiang, you help me to check the time. 5 minutes before 9, you just give me a tinkle, okay?
Sure.
All right. So potentially I may have more material than I have time to share. So I'll go hopefully at a pace that it's reasonable. But if I'm going a bit fast, just feel free to slow me down. Okay. Okay. First of all, who am I? Well, I'm basically a physicist in heart, but I've done a lot of other things. Factory startups and startup universities. I hop between industry and universities. So I've done my rounds of the private sector and did public service in my last posting in a science center to promote science in Penang. But basically, I think the most important thing about me is that I'm a sinner saved by grace through the love of God in Christ Jesus. And I think to me, that is the most important thing that you need to know about me. Okay. Well, the rest of it is great fun, but this is life to me. What is important tonight is this. Okay, in a forum like this, in a conference like this, we try to exude knowledge and wisdom and all that kind of stuff, right? And I've seen things degenerate badly because people take views and positions. And I hope tonight that won't happen. For all of us, the really important thing is Jesus Christ and Him crucified for all of us. Okay. And the other thing that's important is that what you listen today, I hope, is not man's wisdom, but you can see the power of the Spirit coming through the Word of God. And I think that's important, right? Okay, the last thing is something that we need to be aware of, is that as Paul wrote to the Corinthians, as we know, the Corinthians are very refined, very cultured, very educated. And, we can get into this thing, debate and discussion. But remember this, knowledge puffs up while love builds. And I think that's also important. Okay. So I guess setting this stage, I like to dive immediately into the material. Right. Okay. First of all, we are finite and God is infinite. Okay. I don't think we spend time thinking about our mortality and about the eternity of God very much. I think for a very simple reason, we just can't grasp it. Okay. In Ecclesiastes chapter 3, we know this, all right? We memorize this. He has made everything beautiful in His time. And those of us involved in science, we are in a privileged position because we can see the beauty of God in a perspective that many would not, right? And the other thing it says here, He has set eternity in the human heart, yet no one can fathom what God has done from beginning to end, all right? And this is the humility that we need to have when we approach nature. And later on, I hope to show you that if you look at the extents, the expanse of nature, the amount of details, the way it's put together and how beautifully it's crafted, we really cannot grasp this thing that God has put into our heart, that is eternity. Okay. Now the word eternity has to do with time. In fact, the whole of Ecclesiastes 3:11 has to do with time. Okay, made everything beautiful in its time. It suggests something. Even that itself, it tells us that God made everything in its time. I don't know whether you have thought of it that way before, because every time we read Genesis in the creation account, it's like snap the finger, God said, and it happens. But there is a time element in which creation is performed, the act of creation is performed. When you put in time, that means there's a process, okay? God used a process. There's another story for another time, but the process means that there are laws that he has already decided on at the beginning, and that needs to be followed through. It's not ad hoc, it's not random, okay? But a lot of us may not appreciate time and space is linked, inextricably linked, okay? And those of us in physics, we already view space and time not as independent. They are related, okay? In fact, in the theory of relativity, people don't talk about space or time, they talk about space-time. You cannot talk about one without talking about the other. They are actually two sides of the same coin. But again, it's not the story for tonight, okay? But Ecclesiastes chapter 3 sets the stage for us to have our mind, when we view what our universe, our world is like, that there is something eternal about it, and there's something that is perpetual about it, okay? All right, let's look at eternity, okay? Now, it's very interesting at the turn of the 19th century, moving on the 20th century, so much science has been discovered that somebody said, there's nothing new to discover in physics now. All that remains is more and more precise measurement. It's probably Lord Kelvin, okay, from where we get our temperature measurement, a very famous scientist, okay. I put that probably because they are conflicting accounts who exactly said this, but somebody did. But the tone at that time is that there's so much known, so much has been discovered. We understand, electricity, we understand radio waves, Maxwell's equations was already there. We understood a lot about radioactivity, atoms, so many things are discovered that people thought, that's it, we know everything. And then came the 1920s, where quantum physics was discovered, relativity came into the picture, and the whole thing was topsy-turvy, and like a whole new world opened in the world of science, right? So we thought that we have learned that, we don't know as much as we think. And guess what? In the 1990s came Stephen Hawking, and I'm sure you know who Stephen Hawking is. And he said the same thing almost 100 years ago, where people thought that they knew everything. So Hawking said that, we may not have found the exact form of all physical laws. We already know enough to determine what happens in all but the most extreme situations. And he's going to be proven wrong again, okay? As time goes on, more and more new science is discovered that just flawed us, all right? So going back to Ecclesiastes chapter 3, eternity is indeed set in our hearts that we can keep all our scientific endeavors for eternity, and we will still not be able to understand what God has done, because God is eternal. All right, now let's look at this infinity. All right, we know this symbol, right? I'm sure you've seen it, even if you may not know what it is. Those of us, struggle through our maths class in school probably have seen this, okay? And of course, we know Facebook has changed to Meta, and they use that infinity as a symbol, okay? Of course, meta comes from a Greek prefix that means after, beyond, or change, like metabolism, all right? That means that the change from something into energy, basically the food we eat into energy, that's metabolism. Metamorphism, I think Dr. Living will be very familiar, right? Metamorphic rocks is change from one form to another. The rocks do change, they are not there for perpetuity. Marble came from limestone, right? I hope I'm right, Dr. Living, I'm not a geologist. So this kind of like my own general knowledge. And granite came from magma, which is the molten rocks in deep within our earth. Okay. Okay. So I want to get you to relieve the horror of your school days. Now, how do we get infinity? I'm sure some of our teachers may have explained to us. The idea is quite simple. You take 1 divided by 1, it's just 1, right? When you take 1 divided by 0.1, then it's 10. So as the divisor, the number at the bottom gets smaller, you can see x becomes bigger, right? Until you see when you take this here, very, very small point, 0.000 something, you get something like this, okay? So this is like uh, 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 a very big number. Of course, you put more zero, the number becomes bigger and bigger. So as the divisor or the denominator, those of us who remember our maths get smaller, the x, the number becomes bigger. Now, interesting question is, if it gets so small until it becomes 0, what should it be? I know what's the temptation, right? The temptation is to say, well, those of us, engineers and all that, 1 divided by 0, you say infinity, okay? Well, not quite. What is infinity? Infinity, you can't even figure out what it is. It's just too big, right? There's no numbers that can express it, okay? So the correct answer should be is undefined. We don't know, all right? We don't know, okay? Our mind cannot grasp it, okay? Of course, we can go the other way, okay? We can, instead of divide by a smaller number, we make the divisor bigger and bigger. 1 divided by 10 is 0.1, 1 divided by 100 is 0.01, and so forth. And if the number gets bigger and bigger, your x gets smaller and smaller. But what happens if you take 1 divided by infinity, okay? Again, you say 0. Well, that's definitely wrong because it's not 0. It's a very incredibly small number, but it's not 0. There's a value, okay? So again, this is undefined. So mathematics itself tells us, right? We don't know. We cannot fathom the extent even of numbers, how big they can get and how small they can get, okay? Our mind just cannot get around this fact that there are numbers very, very small and infinitely small. And what does infinitely small even mean? How many zeros do we put there? Okay, so indeed, this is the finite nature of us humans. We can't even understand numbers, all right? The big numbers and the small numbers, we cannot grasp it. So you look at most textbooks, they will put is undefined. Okay, now just a bit of fun. We know 1 plus 1 equals 2, so there should be something here. What's infinity plus infinity? Because we don't know, right? So if you say the answer is 2 infinity, is wrong, all right? The correct answer is infinity plus infinity is infinity, all right? And what is x plus infinity? Is still infinity. What is x multiplied by infinity? Is still infinity. Now, why this absurdity? It's because we don't know. We don't know what is infinity exactly, okay? And we better be humble enough to accept that. And every time we do mathematics, and when the equations come up with a solution, we call it blow up, all right? That means that it go to through infinity, that's it, you are done, okay? You can close shop and you can go do something else, go find another equation to work, because that's not going to work, okay? It blows up for us, but not for God, okay? So infinity is not actually a number, but a concept. It's unlimited. There is no bounds, all right? Now, there are some numbers which are very, okay, before I talk about that, I want to talk about Zeno's paradox. Is related to infinity, okay? It's a form of logic. Zeno lived around 500 in 400 plus BC, okay? Now he came up with this argument that if you shoot the arrow, it can never reach the target. Here's a target, okay? We know in reality it does, but the way he reasons it, says that it should not, but it does, okay? So Hi, why you say that? I'm not sure how many have heard this. So you have just be patient. All right. Now there's a certain distance going from the arrow to the target. So you halve the distance. So the arrow, first of all, before reaching the target, it must reach half the distance, right? And now here is the remaining distance. The arrow can also travel half this remaining distance and reach it. That means a quarter. Okay. And now your quarter, you divide by 2, and the arrow must travel half this distance again. It's 1/8, and then 1/16, okay, 1/32, and so forth. So that means you keep dividing by half. By right, the arrow should not reach the person, because every time you divide by half, you can keep going, forever. Okay. So that was Zeno. Okay. I think up to today, this logic could not be flawed, cannot be found flawed, and the resolution for this is not 100%. There's partial resolution, but nobody has come up with the thought to say, hey, how come by his reasoning is correct, you keep half, you can go on forever. That means by right the arrow should never reach the target, but yet it does. Okay, so you can keep doing it, and you can do it infinite number of times. All right, it won't reach a target, but we know it does. Okay, now bookmark this story, because sometimes logic and reality, okay, doesn't coincide. All right, man's logic versus the reality we see. Again, going back to Ecclesiastes chapter 3, all right, we don't understand a lot of things, and this is a simple one. Okay, I think while I was doing this, I did think about it a little bit deeper. I know about this for many, many years, this is partially resolved, okay? Those of you who want to Google at the end of, after this talk, you can look at Cantor series, how this is partially resolved, okay? But it's not fully resolved. Cantor series give part of the solution why it can reach, but it doesn't fully answer it, okay? But as I thought about it, I think there's a very simple way, but so simple I dare not even share it tonight, okay? Maybe I think about it more, and at some point in time I will share it, but I think I know how to resolve this now, okay? But nobody has able to resolve this. I'm not sure what I thought about will be correct, but it seems to be, okay? All right, anyway, bookmark this, Zeno's paradox. Logic and reality doesn't always coincide, all right? And in science, especially physics, we apply a lot of logic, okay? Okay, I want to talk about pi in relation to infinity, okay? Why pi? Pi is a very special number, okay? I'm sure those of you who done any mathematics, which is all of you in school at some point in time, would have remember something about pi. Is used in the calculation of circles, pi r squared, okay? 2 pi r is circumference. So as students, we know it, right? But of course, pi is a number. It's 3.14159. What has that got to do with infinity? It's because this decimal place goes on forever and ever. So the actual formula for pi is the circumference of a circle divided by the diameter, all right? The Babylonians knew about it. The Egyptians knew about it. The Greeks were the one who found a way geometrically to determine pi to a very high degree of accuracy, okay? And then it's all not till the 16 and 1700 that the new mathematics gave us the ability to calculate pi very, very, very precisely, okay? How precise, right? Wait, before that, this number pi is actually used for calculating many, many things, all right? A lot of things we take for granted, things inside our computer with electronics, with waves, has pi in it, all right? It's used for constructing buildings, it's used for us to understand atoms and molecules, it's used for us in understanding light, and come up with a lot of technology we have today. If we didn't know how to calculate pi, we won't have a lot of things that we see in front of us, okay? All right, no pi, no civilization. Okay, I know this sounds a bit dramatic, okay? But it is true. that if we didn't understand or we didn't know how to treat pi, I think we will not be where we are today as a civilization. Okay. All right. Now, pi, you can write the decimal places forever and ever. It's now proven that there is no end. You cannot find a final number and that's it. Okay. Most of us in school will just say 3.14 and use that in a calculation. All right. And this guy here memorized the pi digits up to 67,890 decimal places. Okay. And there is a 14 March every year is called a Pi Day. Okay. Those in the mathematics world, all the mathematics buff will celebrate March 14. Why March 14? Because March is 314. So pi is 3.14. Okay. Pi has been calculated up to 62.8 trillion numbers. Of course, it's not by humans, it's by computer, and this is in Switzerland, all right, at the Graubünden University of Applied Science. All right, this is a record at the moment, but I'm sure as time goes on, this will go on and on, okay? Now, we cannot imagine the precision of pi and such a mysterious number. And by the way, pi is not the only one, but I highlighted pi because it's the one that we are most familiar with. And incidentally, if you look at the number of decimal digits for pi, right, over the centuries, okay, in the 2000 BC, they can calculate maybe up to one decimal place, one digit, 3.1, okay? And then very slow, a slow progress for a few millennia, and finally in 1950, zoop, it shot up. Of course, we know why, right? There was the advent of electronic computers. Okay, and so it shot up. It's continued to go up very, very fast. Okay, next year I'm sure this figure will be broken again. All right, and this reminds me of what's stated in Daniel, and it's a prophecy, and it's coming true. Okay. Daniel in the closing chapter says that many will go here and there to increase knowledge. All right, okay, and this is what we're experiencing today. And this trend is not just for the decimal places of pi. It's for a lot of things. The number of transistors in your computer is for the number of papers published. Anything to do with knowledge and science is having this trend, just shooting up very quickly. How do you think that we managed to come up with a COVID vaccine so fast? All right. Normally, to develop a vaccine, it is not months. All right. It will take, years, if not decades. But because of the power of computing, because of the power of information sharing of knowledge, things just shot up. Okay. We have progressed to a stage of civilization where things are moving faster and faster. In fact, there's a book called Singularity. The question now we are all asking is, can we even cope as humans, right, with the progress? And before we settle down on something, something else would have moved forward. Okay. In the old days, no, you can sit on the technology for decades and centuries. You can't. The changeover now is so quick. All right. And it will definitely have a social impact. But this was already all predicted by Daniel, all right, in Daniel chapter 12, and you are going to see more and more of this. Okay. Do you know that pi is actually in the Bible, right? There's an article written in Nature in 1999. That's how far back it was. Okay, Nature is a very prestigious scientific journal. Okay, it's a multidisciplinary science journal. You can look it up. Okay, now for those of you who don't know, this is a picture of the Jewish temple. Okay, in the Bible, it's in the Old Testament. Now, among the temple furnishing and paraphernalia, okay, is something called the molten sea. Okay, the molten sea is basically just a huge basin. You can see how big it is. There's a man here, so you can see the size. Now, the purpose of this is for the priests and other people to wash themselves. Okay, before they do their religious duties. And here's the altar, of course, the sacrifice. And inside here, those of us who study the Bible recognize this as the Holy of Holies. All right, of course, this temple is no longer there. What's left of it is just a wall. All right. No, sorry, this is Solomon's temple I'm talking about. Okay. Okay. So in First Kings, this is in the Bible. All right. In First Kings chapter 7, 23 to 26, it mentions this. It says he made the sea of cast metal. He means Solomon, of cast metal, circular in shape, measuring 10 cubits, right, from rim to rim, and 5 cubits high. So that molten sea, that big basin, is 10 cubits. All right. Okay. A cubit is basically 18 inches. In those days, they don't use feet and inches or meter. They use cubits or palm. Okay. So that's how they measure from their elbow to the tip of their finger. It's called cubits, about 18 inches. All right. And it took a line of 30 cubits to measure around it. Okay, so what's the picture you should have? Now here is the molten sea, all right? So 10 cubits from rim to rim, that means 10 cubits from here to here, right? And 30 cubits to measure around it. So 30 cubits measuring around it, okay? So if you do the maths, it's actually circumference measuring around it 30 cubits, and the diameter is 10 cubits. So 30 divided by 10 is 3, okay? Then it also says it has a hairbreadth in thickness, so hairbreadth in thickness. So we don't know actually what is this handbreadth, but if you put roughly, a person's hand inside there, it is quite close to 3.14, which is pi, okay? Now, you can say, well, so what? They could have learned it from the Babylonians or the Egyptians who already know something of this. Yes, that is true. If not for another verse in the Bible, okay? Who gave the information to build that molten sea in the first place? Okay, so the information was actually given in First Chronicles chapter 28. Now, David was supposed to wanted to build a temple, but God said, no, you cannot build a temple because blood is on your hands. All right, I think we remembered those things from our Sunday school days. David cannot, so it was left to his son to do it. Okay, and David gave Solomon very specific instructions how to build the temple, what should be inside. If you read the account here, which I won't, very detailed, up to the gold table, up to how much gold to use or what, very detailed instructions. And then in verse 19, King David said, all this is contained in the plan written according to the instructions which the Lord himself gave me to carry out. It was God who gave David the instructions to carry out. It was God who gave David the formula how to make quite a perfect round, okay, wash basin. If you follow these measurements, then if you have 10 cubits here, you can make 30 cubits around it, okay? So pi was actually mentioned in the Bible. The creator of heaven and earth knows about pi. Why not? After all, he's the one who created the heavens and the earth. And surprisingly, pi is used for anything round and spherical. If you look at the planets, you look at the stars, you look at most objects in space, okay, they're all circular in shape. They're all round, okay? Some people will say, yeah, it's just physical laws. But I think pi was already built into the design of a lot of things in the universe. And where did this pi come from? In First Chronicles chapter 28, as God gave David the instructions how to build a temple, including the molten sea, he also showed David how to make it round, and pi must come into the picture. It came from him, all right? So Isaiah 40 says, do you not know, have you not heard? The Lord is the everlasting God, the infinite God, the creator of the ends of the earth. He will not grow tired or weary, and his understanding no one can fathom. God's understanding no one can fathom. We can try, but infinity will always elude us, and it will always be undefined because we are men and not God. Okay, the next section, I titled it The Heavens Declare. All right. One of my regret in life was I had I had an opportunity to do astrophysics, but at that time, you know, we are typical Asian. We are very practical. We say, well, how to cari makan doing astronomy and astrophysics. So I went and did solid state physics instead and got my PhD there. Was thinking that I can get involved in, you know, working in industry and all that. Now I wish I done, you know, astrophysics, because as I look at what is in the heavens, it's just mind-boggling. It is, right? In Psalms 19, it says, the heavens declare the glory of God, the skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day by after day, they pour forth speech, night after night, they reveal knowledge. They have no speech, they use no words, no sound is heard from them, yet their voices goes out into all the earth, their words to the ends of the world. The heavens declare the glory of God. Brothers and sisters, friends, how much of the heaven do we see that we really fall down flat on our knees and our face because we come face to face with the glory of God? I have one very distinct experience. You know, I was really crazy about anything science. So one day I was posted in Phoenix, and about 6 hours drive from Phoenix was a very famous observatory called the Lowell Observatory. It's a very historical one, where the planet Pluto was discovered. Of course, Pluto now is no longer considered a planet, right? But it was, I drove all the way there just to look under their microscope, to look at some planets. I saw Saturn and some stars, and that was about it. 6 hours. I left work at 4 o'clock. I reached there at close to midnight, and looked through the telescope for about half an hour. Then I drove back and arrived the next morning. That's how crazy I was. Okay. But on the way back, it was in the middle of the night. It was pitch dark in desert, and I look up in the sky. I tell you, I just fell flat. I've never seen so many stars in my entire life, and suddenly the words of God to Abraham became meaningful. Your descendants will be as many as the stars in the sky. The heavens declare the glory of God, but that's not the end of the story. I think those of us who follow the news in technology and science will know about the James Webb Space Telescope. Terribly expensive, 11 billion, is launched last Christmas. Okay, right now it's up in space somewhere, very stable because it's kept stable by the gravity tug of Earth and the Sun. It's not going anywhere. It's in what they call a Lagrangian point, where a point in space where all the gravity forces cancel out each other. And while it's been constructed, it looks something like this. Okay. Now, the very first picture that is sent, which you only received last week, is this, a picture in the sky. Okay, they call this a galaxy cluster. This is 4.6 billion light years away. 1 light year is 9.5 trillion kilometer. Okay, so multiply that by 4.6, roughly 5. That's how far away it is in terms of trillion kilometer. Now, you cannot imagine trillion kilometer. Okay, no way we can get there, but the telescope can see it. Okay, and before the James Webb Telescope, there was and the light, all right, from that cluster takes 4.6 billion years, okay, to reach Earth. That means that what this telescope is seeing is something 4.6 billion years ago. Okay, now the light from the sun takes 8 minutes to reach Earth. The sun is about 150 million miles away from us, and the light that is produced in the sun will reach Earth in 8 minutes. So whatever we see of the sun is happened 8 minutes ago. Okay, you get it? Now, the nearest star to us is Proxima Centauri. Okay, the light from Proxima Centauri takes 4 years to reach us. All right. So anything, if let's say Proxima Centauri explode today, we won't know about it until 4 years down the road. Okay, and this galaxy cluster that you saw just now, the SMACS, the Southern Magellanic catalog system, they put numbers, takes 4.6 billion years. That's how far the telescope is looking into. But that's not the furthest. All right. Now see this little spot here called XDF. Don't worry about what XDF means, and look at the size of the moon. Now that means you look up in the night sky and you just pick a little spot there. Okay. And there's another telescope called the Hubble Space Telescope. Okay. This is very old. I think it's, in fact, many years ago, when I was a student, about 40 over years ago, I applied to join the Hubble Telescope program. I didn't get it, but my classmate got it. Okay. So I guess it's still there now. And this Hubble Space Telescope is looking at this tiny spot in space. Okay. And this tiny spot in space has this picture. And inside this picture is 10,000 galaxies. Every dot is a galaxy. Okay. And the average number of stars per galaxy is 100 million. So in just this little tiny spot, there's 1 trillion stars, just this tiny spot, okay, up in the sky. So you cannot imagine our universe, how big it is. For astronomers to study the stars, you can go on until the end of the world. You will still not be able to study every single star, catalog every single one of them. There's just too many, right? Okay, we cannot talk about astronomy without talking about the Big Bang. All right, I'm going to skip all these details, okay? You don't need to know all these details. It is fun when we have the time, but we don't, okay? I'm going to go straight to this. Basically, for Christians, we kind of look at the Big Bang and then we avoid it because, especially those of you who are subscribed to the young Earth, okay, Earth 6,000 years old, because the Big Bang extends the time history of the universe to billions of years, right? And another reason why we don't like that, I feel, is because of tradition, not because of anything else. It's because of this theory of evolution and the atheists using that, okay, to say that there is no God. So we need to shorten the time frame of the existence of the Earth and the universe so that there's not enough time for evolution to happen. I don't think that's a correct approach, right? We don't have to do that. There is enough in the science to tell us that God is there and is powerful. We don't have to resort to these trickeries, I call them, to counter the atheists. Okay. Okay. So the theory goes like this: that initially, the whole universe is just very tiny, and then less than a couple of millimeters. Some say about the size of an atom. All the energy area is packed inside there, and then there's a huge explosion. They call the Big Bang, and then before that there was no space, nothing. Okay. And then because of the Big Bang, space come into existence, time also come into existence. Remember, I told you space and time is interrelated. If there's no time, there's no space. There's no space, there's no time. Okay, so I cannot explain that to you, but I just throw it to you. Okay, then of course, in time, the universe expands, and then they got different names or different periods of the Big Bang. Okay, so it starts from zero, very short time, 10 to the minus 32 seconds, to microseconds, which is 1 millionth of a second, and then to hundreds of thousands of a second, and minutes, and so forth. Okay. So this is basically the picture of the Big Bang. All right. Now, what people don't understand, okay? Big Bang is a model, it's a theory, okay? And the most honest account, and you go and see these documentaries, like with Brian Cox, that famous professor who does these documentaries, and you see even Stephen Hawking himself talk as if that we know everything there is to know about the creation of the universe. In fact, we don't. And that's something that we all need to know. Now, the most honest account is by this guy called Matt Stressler. Okay, and he did this in 2014, and this is the picture you need to carry away. Okay, first of all, before the inflation, before space expanded, you see here he put in red, highly speculative. We have no data, and we have to admit it. We don't know. We know nothing. Okay, and then at another space where you know, the Big Bang started, the time not very clear, is still speculative. So whatever, you know, physicists and scientists tell you is speculative. We don't really know, but we think it's like this, like this. We think and we know is two separate things. Okay, in science is we either we know or we don't. So when we say we think is we don't know. All right, we are speculating. And then as time goes on, we become more confident because the physics is better understood. So increasing confidence, okay? And then finally, at some point in the Big Bang Theory, the confidence level is very high, okay? So that is the correct picture to take away. And when you look at YouTube, you look at documentaries, they won't tell you that. You walk away thinking, yeah, the Big Bang is it. Well, it is not 100%. It is part of it, okay? So here, if you go back to this picture, at the very beginning, it's highly speculative. We don't really know. And the first, you know, instance straight after the expansion, it's speculative. We know something, but we don't know enough. There's not enough physics for us to figure out exactly what is going on. We can guess, but we don't know, right? And certainly we cannot prove it. And then once you go into this period here, we call it the electroweak quark and hadron period. Don't worry about that. We have some confidence because there's enough physics to give us some confidence, but not full confidence because there are multiple solutions and some of it fits better than others. Okay. And it's only after 1 second when the atoms start to form, we have high level of confidence where the physics are known. Okay. And so this is the correct picture about the Big Bang. All right. So when the atheists come and tell you that, you know, oh, because the Big Bang explains that we don't need a God, it's bullshit. All right. Okay, sorry. Mind the expression. So why is the Big Bang theory so successful? So in science, the theory is actually calculation, model, and simulations. That means that it's not reality. It's just like Zeno's paradox, the logic. The logic is correct. Okay, logic is correct. You can't fault the logic. But is it true? All right. And whether it's true or not, whether it's real or not, is where observations and experiments come in. Okay. And then the observation experiments actually help the theoreticians do more calculations. All right. They feed the observation data into the calculation. So the theory gets better. Okay. And then, of course, the theory gets better. We know what to look. And so this is a cycle that improves the theory, okay, and our understanding. Now, why is Big Bang theory successful? It's because it's able to predict the three things. One, it predicts the expanding universe. One, it predicts the cosmic microwave background. And third thing, it predicts the ratio of hydrogen and helium in the universe, okay? So if the theory is correct, then the observation should support the theory, okay? At least correct from the perspective of what we have confidence in. That means that this is the part where we can do a lot of physics and we have a lot of confidence. Before that, we have low confidence, okay? Okay.
Dr. Kong is 8:55 now.
Okay, thank you. I hope you would just give me until 10 past 9. I may be able to finish. If not, I'll stop where I stopped, all right? Okay, so the expanding universe is very conclusive, okay? It's something called the redshift. So there's something called spectra. So you look at light, different atoms, different like hydrogen, will have different spectral lines, okay? They'll absorb light at certain colors, okay? And then it's redshifted when these lines move. You see this line here, it moves to the right. All the lines move to the right a little bit. So it is called redshift. Now, this guy, Edwin Hubble, what he found was that when you look at galaxies further and further away, the redshift gets more and more. That means that the Earth is, the universe is expanding, okay? The second one is the microwave background. Okay, because of time, I won't go through the story. They observed and they found it. But not only did they found, Big Bang Theory predicted that the microwave background is not even. So it has an energy, or temperature of 3K or energy of 3K, but it should be uneven, and it is, but average 3K. Now this is a very big discovery and a find. Okay. And then when they look everywhere in the universe, the ratio of hydrogen is 75 to helium 25, exactly what was predicted by the theory. Okay, and so these three observations make people think that Big Bang Theory is solid. It is solid insofar from these three observations. Okay, and so this is a credible theory now, but it does not explain the very beginning. Okay, I will take only one point: the expanding universe. In the Bible, in Job, it says, He alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the seas, on the waves of the sea. And Psalms 104, He stretches out the heavens, it mentions again. Isaiah 40:22, Isaiah 42, He stretches out again. And the word stretch in Hebrew, okay, is the word notor, which actually means that to expand. And surprisingly, the Hebrew word also means to bend. He bends the heaven, okay? The modern cosmology from all the experiment observations is exactly that. The space, okay, is bent. It can be bent by gravity. Now, and this is not the only references, by the way. There are 7 other references that talks about how God stretches out the heaven. Now think about it. How did people thousands of years ago, the prophets, when they wrote this, can write this about the heavens being stretched? We don't even know. We don't even understand cosmology. Relativity wasn't even there, nothing. And yet, here it is written, God stretches out the heaven. And guess what? Many millennia, thousands of years later, this is exactly what we saw. Only in the Bible you will find this, and nowhere else. A God who stretches out the heavens. Amazing. All right. Okay. Then you in Isaiah 42, there's another okay, there's another one called spreads. Wait, how can you spread out the earth? The earth is not spread out, it's pretty static and solid. But you look at the word for spread in Hebrew, it's a different Hebrew word. It means to stamp, to beat, to make broad. Okay, so outer space, it's expansive, very big. It's a kind of like fluid, all right? So it's stretched, but the earth is solid, so it has to be stamped and beat and made broad. Amazing. The accuracy in which the Bible, the words used in the Bible to describe how the planet Earth needs to be formed. It has to be stamped and beat because it's solid, right? Whereas space is fluid, so it can be stretched like a balloon, all right? So the Bible alludes to the fact that the heavens are stretching just like what the Big Bang Theory says, okay? And so in Psalms, it's written, O Lord, our Lord, how majestic is your name in all the earth. And when I look at the heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars you have set in place, what is man that you're mindful of him, and the son of man that you care for him? Actually, I have a lot to say on this slide, okay? So I have to move on now very quickly to finish it. This phrase here, that you care for him, is actually translated in KJV as you visit, okay? And this has the connotation of to attend to master, to a point to look after, okay? The God who made the heavens and the earth is still involved today with us. He's still attending to us. He has to attend to men, that he has to be mindful of men, because everything in the universe works perfectly. All the natural laws, nothing changed, and everything well behaved. The only thing not well behaved on this planet that God has created on this planet is man. And he continues to be mindful of him, attending to him like a naughty child. All right, a lot to say, but no time. Okay, I'm going to talk about special relativity. Okay, don't worry about the detailed equation. In fact, don't even bother about the equation. All right, all of us who did physics in year 1, in fact, I think maybe now even in school they may see something like this. I don't know. Okay, basically, relativity says that 2 observers move at different velocity will measure time differently. Okay, And this is called time dilation. Another thing is that two observers moving at different velocity will measure length differently as well. This is called length contraction. Okay, this is kind of like the starting point where I talk about space-time. Time and space, length means space is interrelated. All right. Okay. Now here's the weird thing. Okay, I won't talk about this. Here's the weird thing, that if you are a person on space and someone moving, in a spacecraft, okay, and going very fast in the space, and then many years you come back, the person on the spacecraft, the time actually is slower, all right, than the person on Earth who is static. Okay, time move faster. So after some time, the okay, let's say this is the daughter goes out into space and come back. The daughter is still very young, but this guy has aged. All right, you say, can it be? Okay, believe it or not, it's actually experimentally proven. Of course, not using man. Like, we haven't traveled far out into space enough. We haven't traveled fast enough. Okay, because it depends on speed. Okay, in fact, an experiment was done in the 1970s of two planes flying in opposite direction, and they used a very, very accurate clock called atomic clocks. Okay, and when they compare their time after they come back, it is true. The one that is flying away, okay, the clock actually moves slower compared to the one that is still on Earth. In fact, it's proven again many times in different experiments in different settings. Okay, you can Google it yourself if you want. In fact, this relativity theory is also applied in the design of some of our electronics components and so forth. This is a very well established and proven theory. There's no doubt about it. Okay, time is not fixed. All right. So we heard of Einstein as theory, but you may not appreciate this point. And guess what? The Bible in 2 Peter chapter 3 says, with the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years are like a day. When I did my year 1 physics, and as soon as I understood relativity, this verse came to my mind exactly. A day is like 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is like a day. To God, time is immaterial. And Einstein's theory of relativity has to do with the speed of light. The closer you travel to the speed of light, the slower your time will be for you. That means that time will slow down for you. If you travel exactly at the speed of light, time doesn't move at all. Time stands still, okay? And I'm not talking science fiction here. This is real science. And the Bible knew about the theory of relativity thousands of years ago. To God, a day is like 1,000 years. 1,000 years are like a day. When we sing the song, Jesus is the same yesterday, today, and forever, it adds a new meaning to that, doesn't it? Once we understand the nature of time, okay? And not just once, twice the Bible mentioned. One in 2 Peter, second time in Psalms 90, all right? It says 1,000 years in your sight are like a day that has just gone by, or like a watch in the night. We have a God who's everlasting, and science can give a little bit of understanding how God can be eternal, where time, he's not bounded by time. All right, he's not bounded by space-time, I should say, because if you're not bounded by time, you're not bounded by space. That's why God is omnipresent. All right, and God is omniscient, since he can be everywhere, anytime. He can see everything and he can know everything. And the theory of relativity gives us a clue to that, and the Bible alludes to it. Amazing. How did Peter know to write this? To the Lord, a day is like 1,000 years. And going back even further, Moses, who wrote Psalms 90, can tell you 1,000 years in your sight are like a day. Just like a day. To us, it's 1,000 years. Wow, many generations, wars have been fought, civilization has come and gone. But to God, it's just a day. Well, a day is just maybe metaphoric. It could be a second. It could be no time at all. All right? Amazing. The Bible alludes to the nature of time. So this gives us a fresh insight into Genesis, doesn't it? When it talks about the first day, the second day. In Genesis, when it talks about the day, whose day? Our day, God's day, what is the reference frame? Well, I'm not going to talk about it tonight. I certainly don't want to argue about it. Okay, God has set eternity in my heart. I'm not going to understand what He has done. You want to be smart? Go ahead, all right. But I'm going to declare myself a fool in this case, right? So, okay. Lastly, I want to talk about what is unseen. Okay. Paul wrote this, a few things. This is quite incredible. He says that God's eternal power and divine nature have been clearly seen, being understood from what has been made, so that people are without excuse. We can understand God's power and divine nature from what has been made, okay? In Hebrews 11, even more amazing. In verse 3, it says, by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that what is seen was not made out of what was visible. I read it again. What is seen was not made out of what was visible. The KJV gives a little bit more color, okay? It says, were not made of things which do appear. Now, if you go back to the original Greek word, this word, what was visible or do appear, it has this connotation of shading light, something that's clear, appear to the mind. So what we can see around us, everything, okay, is not something that can be intuitive to us, that appears to our mind, that is visible, that's clear to us, that's made manifest. It cannot. All right. When Paul wrote this, assuming Paul wrote Hebrews, when this was written, they had no idea of modern science. But yet this is what modern science is telling us. Okay. Look at our body. All right. We can see our organs, we can see our skin, but we don't see the cells. Okay. In fact, we don't know about cells and all that till much later. Okay, thousands of years later. Okay, from the time when Paul wrote those words. Okay, the first microscope was discovered in around the 1600s, and this guy Leo van Hooke was the first to observe bacteria, and this was a microscope he used. And Robert Hooke was the first one to observe living cells. All right. So it took about 1,500 years for us to figure out what is unseen in our body that we are made out of. And of course, this is the optical microscope. Okay. And then this is some blood cells. And by the way, this is my blood cells. I took it to the cam and put it under the microscope and projected it. I did an experiment, and this one, the red ones are the red blood cells, and this one are the white blood cells. And this is all I can see under the microscope, but under 1000x magnification. But use a very powerful electron microscope, you can see that these white blood cells actually got structures. Okay, in fact, they got names to them. Okay, as we go smaller and smaller, we see more and more. So what is made out of things that we do not see, and we're only starting to see them now. Okay, I won't talk about this, and we'll talk about this as well. Okay, very quickly on this, let's take molecules. This is what I can see, zeolite. Okay, again, I take things that I thought Dr. Living can relate to. So zeolite, if I'm not mistaken, and you can correct me, Dr. Living, this is a silicate. Of course, all rocks are mainly silicate with aluminum inside, all right, aluminum, and there's oxygen. So this is what you can see, okay? And this was discovered in 1756, and that's all they know. Yeah, this is zeolite. Okay, in fact, this was used a lot in the petroleum industry as a catalyst, all right? And then later on, when X-ray was discovered in the 1930s, we begin to see more things. And from the X-ray diffraction, we can understand the molecular structure. And then, of course, with more science, called quantum mechanics, we can do calculations and then deduce that this is the structure, all right? And even after we deduce the structure, for a good part of 50, 60 years, we don't see. We only can a reason that it looks like that based on all the data and our calculation. Is only in the last 10, 20 years that there is something called a scanning tunneling microscope that we could see peer right down, and the shape looks like what was being predicted. And this was the power of modern science that, from what we can see, give us an imagination of what we cannot see. And then finally, with a very powerful microscope called a tunneling microscope, we can actually see it. Okay? Okay. More, the atoms that we do not see. Okay? The molecules that I show you just now is made of atoms, and a lot of story here. And we think that, and we always get a picture that atoms is like that, Okay, well, they are not. I got news for you. It actually looks like this. Not exactly, but a lot of these all jumble up together inside an atom. Okay, this is the real picture. But then none of us have ever seen this. We did the calculation and the theory, the logic, just like the Zeno paradox, and it works. It explains a lot of the chemistry. It explains a lot of the genes. It allows you to make vaccines and fight COVID and all that. But do we see this? We don't see this. Well, I got news. Atoms is still not the smallest. The smallest now that we have are called elementary particles, all right? I only point out one called the Higgs boson, was just discovered in the last 5 years or so. And in fact, this is called the God particle, all right, in the book by this Nobel laureate, okay? And it is this Higgs boson, not a proton, not a neutron, is smaller than that, that actually give us mass and weight, okay? All right, so this is a whole talk just by itself on this one, okay? And this Higgs boson was predicted in 1963 and it was discovered in 2014. All right, and okay. So lastly, I want to just mention this, that the fundamental nature of the universe is probabilistic, okay, under quantum mechanics, because when Newton discovered the laws of motion, it was deterministic. We can determine, we can predict how things move. But later on, at the fundamental level, nature is not deterministic, it's probabilistic. Okay, I'll leave that to you as the teaser. On why I brought this up, because this discussion about free will, we have free will or not, or we don't, okay? I think nature has something to tell us. I will whet your appetite, I'll leave it as that, okay? So, I just want to go back to Ecclesiastes chapter 3:11, that God has set eternity in our hearts. We cannot fathom what God has done. Just as we thought that we understood everything, something else turned up, and I believe it always will, because God is eternal. All right, and I appeal to all Christians. Remember this: knowledge will puff up and love builds up, whether it's in position of theology or positions of where science interface with faith. Watch ourselves that we let love prevail and don't let the puffing up take hold of us. Okay. Okay, so I think I will end here and give the time back to the chairman. Sorry, I've taken a few minutes more.
Okay. Thank you to Dr. Kong for this session on I See Physics in the Bible. Right now, we go into the Q&A session. So for all the audience, you can type your questions in the chat box, or you can also, I think you can unmute and also ask a question directly to Dr. Kong. Okay, I think at the moment, I haven't seen any questions in the chat box. So all the audience, you can type your questions in the chat box.
I have a question. Sorry. So part of what he was saying was what doctor was saying was how many planets and galaxies there were, and I just wanted to know what his thoughts were on the Drake equation, because a fundamental part of that equation, and the Drake equation is the equation put together to predict if there's other life, and part of that equation is actually the probability of the amount of planets that there are. So I just wanted to know what the biblical view of the Drake equation would be.
Okay, as far as I know, the Bible is silent in terms of physical life elsewhere. Now, it's is not meant to say that it's not possible, because we don't know what God has done, right? Look, we don't even understand our own solar system, let alone. So I view the Drake equation this way. It's just like the Zeno paradox. The logic is right. Okay, the logic is that since there are so many stars and so many planets, the probability of at least one or few of them would have life and civilization. All right. So you can, and remember, this is an equation. Okay, it's a model, it's a simulation. Now, does it equate to reality? We won't know until reality presents itself. And so far, it hasn't, right? So whether there is life or not, it would have to depend on whether we see it or not. And so far, we have not. Is that fair?
Yep. Okay. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I think we got to be very careful, when we look at a model, they're just mathematical equations. That's why I brought up Zeno paradox, right? And we don't use a mathematical equation to say that that is reality. It's not. I know I'm an experimentalist because I'm not a very smart person. So I do experiment. The smart people will do theory, right? And I always have this argument with them. They will say, look, I got all this equation. I say, fine, you got this equation. My experiment, I'm going to show you whether your model, your equation is real or not, right? There are more equations than there are observable realities. And this is a known fact, okay? So we go back to, how science works. We will accept reality as we see them. If not, it's just like Big Bang, all right? People will tell you, oh yeah, what's before the Big Bang? Oh, they say multiverse, okay? But look, you can't prove it, okay? And so you cannot insist that that's it. You can only use it as a conjecture, and it's different from reality, okay? All right. Sorry, I sound very passionate, so don't be put off by that. It's just me, okay?
Hello,
Yes.
Danny here from Malacca.
Hi.
I'm just wondering, I'm not sure if I understand you correctly, and that's why I'm just checking.
Sure.
So are you saying that when God spoke the universe into existence out of nothing, as many of us believe,
yes,
that He used part of the Big Bang Theory, or what we call the Big Bang Theory, or the latter segments of the Big Bang Theory?
Okay. Now, it's very very dangerous for us to make that sort of correlation. Very simply, the Bible already told us that God has put eternity in our heart. We don't know what He has done exactly because we are not there. Okay. We see bits and pieces of it. But one thing, as I reasoned, as I thought through, okay, remember just now I said many times I was brought up with that notion as well, that when God created, He spoke, He snapped His fingers, and that happens. But as I examine the scriptures, I find more and more the time element. For example, He made everything beautiful in its time. That means that there's a timing factor involved, okay? Now, why is important? As a scientist myself and designer, I know how physical processes work, okay? One process must follow another, and you cannot have something happening before something else. Just like you're cooking, all right? You must follow the steps, okay? You cannot prepare the food any old how you like, because the outcome will not be what you get. So in the same way, the Bible, when it was written, you must remember this. It was written at a time when there was very little understanding of science. So it got to be put in language, okay, that the ancients could use. In fact, the Hebrew language, by the way, okay, has very, very limited vocabulary. So sometimes they use one word to represent a lot of things in different contexts. For example, the word day, I think a lot of us know, right? A day could be 24 hours, a day could be 12 hours, a day could be a period of time, a day could be a millennium, right? So, but because they don't have the terminology like a fortnight, a week, or something like that, so everything becomes yom, a day in Hebrew. Okay, so coming back to my point, when God created, he first of all must have the laws in place. Okay, physical laws, and only with the physical laws in place. Okay, I'm going to design the thing. Okay, with the laws that God already has in his mind to do. All right, and then the creation must build around the law. Otherwise, I argue with the non-Christians. I say there's one set of physical laws in it, and they are extremely, extremely consistent and very, very precise. The speed of light is 299, some figure. It cannot change. You change just one of the smallest figure, the whole universe will collapse. That is the amount of precision we have in the universe. So when God created the heavens and the earth, all the physical laws must be in place. And if you have physical laws in place, that means that they must act in a sequence, right? You cannot have one thing before another. So I don't think when we read Genesis, I don't think we are always reading it correctly, okay? And if God breaks his own laws in his creation, then the whole universe will be very, very chaotic. And it's not, it's very orderly. So that tells us a lot about the creation process. But I started this discussion with Ecclesiastes 3 that it is, he made everything beautiful in its time, right? Everything that's made has a time component. That means there's a process component, there's a physical law component that needs to come in. Yeah. Yeah, I need to study Hebrew language. Absolutely. Okay, any other questions? Something on the chat. Stephen Ball. Hey, thanks for that. Yeah. Yeah, but the Big Bang, remember this, when you're faced, challenged by the Big Bang theory, the truth is that the initial stage of the Big Bang is not known. It's highly speculative. Just remember that. The later part of the Big Bang, when a lot of the physics is understood, that becomes clearer, okay? Yeah. So if anyone tells you that Big Bang, because of Big Bang, you don't need God, you can disprove that very easily. Right?
Hello, Dr. Kong.
Yeah.
Just now you show a slide on the quantum theory of light. If I didn't see it wrongly, and you say you want to skip that, so can you explain a little bit about that?
Let me just share the screen and make sure that
The continuous spectrum.
the spectrum.
Yeah.
Not this, right? This one, no?
No, the spectrum.
Oh, on the Big Bang one.
No, I
Okay.
think.
Further down. Okay. This one.
No.
No.
Down.
Down means further down.
Further down, yes. Further down.
Oh,
down.
this one here. This one here.
No. Further down.
Further down. I'm not sure I have anything. Oh, this one here.
Yes.
Oh, this one just a bit of science lah. That means that when we look at our microscope, we are looking at visible light. All right. And why the electron microscope can give you such a high magnification? That electron microscope is actually 100,000 times more powerful than the optical. That's why you can see the images of your white blood cells, such fine definition and features. Because as the energy of the radiation, like light is a radiation, and as energy gets higher, your resolution gets higher. That's why nowadays, for all the very high magnification work, people use electron microscope. It's routine nowadays. Okay, is that what you're looking for? Or?
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Dr. Kong.
Yeah.
Rodney from Malacca.
Hey, hi, Ronnie.
Yeah, hi. Can science explain the miracles and the sort of wonders that happen in the Old Testament and New Testament? What do you think about it?
I have not actually done and look at the miracles, okay? But my initial thoughts on miracles, and thanks for bringing it up because it's something in my mind that I'd like to explore further down the road. I've not done it yet. But the thing about miracles is this: is only a miracle insofar as we don't understand the phenomena, right? When the Europeans went to North America, the Indians look at the matches which they brought along, and they call them fire sticks, and they were like, "Wow, incredible! You can make fire from sticks, you know." But of course, now we know it's just a phosphorus at the tip. So my personal feeling is that a lot of the miracles are just physical phenomena that we do not yet understand, okay? But it is a miracle. Of course, it's recorded as such. Now, they are physical laws that we may not yet know and we are not privy to. Like we said, we don't understand what God has done from beginning to end. God has all the natural laws. So and there are natural laws we may not have discovered, and God could have brought them to bear for us. Now, I always thought about, the miracle of changing water to wine, obviously there's some chemistry involved. That means it involves molecules, and you need energy, okay? Now, how to harness the energy? We can't, okay? But God can, and God knows a law that perhaps we have not discovered yet, that we can channel energy through our bodies and bring it on the substance in which we want the energy to act, okay? For example, many years ago, actually we are surrounded by a force field. We don't see it, but there's a way to take a picture where we can see, kind of like I don't know what you call it. It's just like magnetic field emanating from our body, but nobody knows what to do with them at the moment, okay? So I think there are a lot of very mysterious things in nature that we have not discovered. But once we have discovered it, then it no longer become miraculous per se, all right? But some things, for example, in the Old Testament, where you remember the battle, okay? I am getting old, which they fought, and
Jericho.
Sorry?
Jericho, is it?
Not Jericho, where the sun actually stood still.
Yeah.
So, not Jericho.
Joshua chapter
Yeah,
6 or 10.
That's right.
The Amalekites.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Moses' hand had to be held up, right? Okay. Now, I don't know exactly what happened there and how that can happen. And it'll be very, very interesting to kind of look at it. But you know what? We can spend several generations looking at it, we still can't figure it out. Because look, if we can, then I think we have taken God's position. And there's some things God do that we will never be able to understand. Look, I look at the sky, just one small spot, 1 trillion stars in that small spot, right? I can't even grasp that. I can't even understand infinity. Wow, we want to be smart and explain everything. No, what we can't explain, hey, let's declare we don't know and be humble about it. We don't, right? Okay. Yeah. I think it's 9:30 already. Yeah.
Yeah, it's already 9:30.
No,
yeah.
I'm trying to maybe one last question.
Okay, all right. One
Yeah.
last question.
Yeah. I think we better call it a night. It's quite late already.
Okay. Actually, I have one, but I probably will ask you another time. Yeah. So maybe
quick one.
no, it's okay. I think it's quite. This is out of
all right.
Very small question out of my thoughts. Maybe I'll now like to invite Dr. Li to give some announcement about some of our activities in the consecutive months.
Okay. So I share screen. Host disable screen sharing. Can you enable?
Okay.
Me too. Exit full screen. Let me get to the.
Dr. Living, can you share now?
Yeah, I'm trying to get to the.
Okay. Right.
Where's to get back to my PowerPoint first. Okay, CSN conference. Yeah. Okay. Whoops, sorry. Okay, get back to my Zoom. Okay, share screen. Okay. Yep, share. All right. Can you see?
Yes.
Hello? Yeah.
Yes.
This is to announce our Christian STEM Nexus conference. So it's all online, so no physical meeting. And it will be divided into 2 sessions over 2 Saturday nights. The first one is on 10th of September, 8 to 10:30 p.m. So every night there will be 3 papers presented. Each paper will be 45 minutes, including questions. That means the presenter will just present about 30 minutes and then have some 15 minutes. We want to examine in general some of the topics which are currently faced by people dealing with science and faith, you see. So paper 1, science and faith, I'll be doing that. Then paper 2 on being human will deal with questions like what is human and human origins, you see. Then Dr. Kong will presents a practical one on STEM evangelism, and he's been doing a lot of work using STEM and hands-on kits and so on to present the gospel. So STEM evangelism, and tonight's talk is just a good example of part of it, you see. Then after 1 week, the next Saturday on 17th September, same time, 8 to 10:30, we'll have the paper 4, Scripture and Science, because that's why some of the questions that was asked just now about, when God spoke into, I mean, the Genesis 1 to 11 especially. So we have got Dr. Leong Tien Fook, who's an expert in OT and the language of Scripture and Science, and he himself is an engineer. Will be doing that for us. And then STEM apologetics will be taken by Samuel Neeson, who's with the group that is very actively explain, that group called Explain, which do a lot of Christian apologetics, you see. So the focusing on certain aspects of apologetics which involve STEM. Then we got a practical paper by someone who's Alicia, who's with a group. There's actually a Christian group that's working on creation care, and they don't just do actively involved in the, like for example, the Bukit Cheraka, the Shah Alam, Save the Shah Alam Forest project, and so she will share perspective on how Christians can practically get involved, especially now with a lot of interest in global warming and sustainable, doing science and manufacturing and everything sustainably and so on and all that. So it will be quite a range of topics over the 2 nights, and we hope that you will publicize this. We'll get the posters prepared, and by August we'll send it out, and then you can forward it to your friends, and then they can just join in the conference online. Okay, any questions? Brother Kong, you want to add anything?
No. I guess these are baby steps for us this year. The Christian STEM Nexus started just less than a year ago. So I think the Lord has been leading us step by step, at least one step. But I feel more and more that this has become an area of ministry that would be very helpful and maybe even needed, especially now with the advancement of science is so quick, and nobody really is out there, I think, as far as I know, in Malaysia or at least in this region, that is actively doing work in this area. So I'm kind of excited about it, but then it's just me lah. I'm a science person, so anything touches science and scripture will be very exciting to me. Okay. So I look forward to this conference.
Okay. Any questions? If not, back to Wei Xiang.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Living. And I think that will be all for today. I think for all the informations that Dr. Living has shared, we also update that in our Facebook page. So if you can just go back, I think in the chat box, we have already shared the Facebook link twice there. You can just follow us there to get more information. Sorry, I think there's a question on, do we need to register for the conference? Maybe Dr. Living, you can answer that.
We actually have not decided, because we were thinking of running like this present one. We just have the poster out and have the Zoom times and the ID and the password, and people can just log on. But if it is decided that with registration, we will be able to keep track of the people who are interested, then maybe we should do that. Because now your contacts, because anybody can just log on. So maybe we would, if it's helpful, we would then put on a registration of some kind.
Okay. I think time is also running out. So maybe for this meeting, we'll close with a word of prayer. I would like to invite Dr. Kong to close this meeting.
Okay, let's pray. Father, as we look at ourselves and the way you created us, sinful as we are, but yet so marvelous, so wonderfully made we all are. So many stories, Lord, out there of the beauty of how your work is so consistent, so precise, so perfect. Lord, all these things mean nothing to us until we know that you love us and you send your son Jesus to die for us. Lord, tonight I pray that your power, the Spirit, would reach out to the hearts of the people who need them, both those who need you and those who do not. I pray, Father, that when we come face to face and when we see the heavens declare your glory, and when we see, Lord, what you have done, things that we cannot fathom, I pray, Father, that your Spirit will bring us into a space of worship, of conviction of you, the God that we worship. That you who uphold, created and uphold the whole universe and ensures everything runs so smoothly in so many minute details, layers upon layers upon layers, things beyond our imagination. I pray that you humble us, that we may worship you and praise you, that our hearts will be filled with confidence, and every day we'll be encouraged because we know who you are. Nothing in this world is too great for you. Nothing that we face, O Lord, that you cannot handle for us. So, Father, we pray tonight that we will go away, not with all the wisdom of men and the discoveries, and they are great, because why shouldn't they be? These are the discoveries of the things that you made, that you put in place. And I pray tonight that we will go away knowing how majestic and how great you are. So we give you thanks. In the name of our Lord Jesus Christ. Amen.
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 Okay, I guess good night, everybody. Yeah.
Good night.
Yeah. I hope I didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Thank you for your sharing.